Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cinnamon Stitches. I'm your yarn host Jennifer and today we're having a tutorial and I can't believe we had the time to make this tutorial. Now, this is the hat we're making. It's super cute. It's not a winter hat. I mean, you could wear it in the winter if you live in a warmer climate. It is very much a I want to be cute today and have crochet on my head hat. That's what it is. It's a summertime hat, right? It's really cute. Now, I've made two other ones. One was just me playing with my yarn, and the other one was I was legitimately writing the pattern using the hat. And so what I did for these, now these two are a different yarn than what we used here, but they all give kind of the same feel and look. So I'm going to give you a couple suggestions in the video. I did forget until midway through the tutorial, I believe, to tell you that we're using a 5.5mm hook. This is my Omi hook. The hat is quick, it's simple. Let's see, what time is it? It's 1 o'clock. I think I started this tutorial about an hour or 2 hours ago. So filming a tutorial took me less than 2 hours. This hat should be done within an hour or 2 hours of your time as well. This yarn, both of these, is the Landscaped Breeze. I used little miniature balls of this, which is why that label is so small. But this does come in normal size balls. I used 2 colorways, and every row I alternate color A, color B, color A, color B, color A, color B. So that's these 2 hats. And then this hat, for the tutorial, I used Big Twist Party yarn in 2 colors. So you want contrasting colors, so that I went with a light and a dark, or I tried to go with a light and a dark. But these are also color shifting yarns, so keep that in mind too. Like, there's some rows where it looks like it was the same colorway, but it's not. It's 2 different colorways, and I was alternating it to give this fun effect. I think I'm going to name this hat the Manfas Hat. Manfas Hat. I was thinking about it because there's a channel in the YouTube world called Manfas Makes. Manfas Makes. I'm really struggling with that. And the reason I'm naming the hat after her is because she has taken this year and she has decided to always have a Cinnamon Stitches pattern on her hooks. And so her and I are both struggling with mental issues. Not so much mental issues. We're struggling with life. Okay? I'm clearly having mental problems. She's struggling with life and processing a lot of things right now, and I just wanted to make her smile because she has been very, very supportive of me and the channel and my tutorial specifically. And I just wanted to send her some love and say, hey. So this is Manfas Hat. Her name is Sam. Manfa. There you go. That's the Manfas Hat. Manfas Hat. I am struggling so hard with saying that. So this is Manfas Hat. You need 2 balls of alternating colored yarn. And I know that if Manfa decides to make this hat, she's got lots of colors in her stash that she could use to make this hat if she wants to use this as a project. But yeah, quick, easy tutorial to make a really cute little fun. We're calling it a summer hat because it's got holes in it. You could wear it to the park. You could wear it like while you're out. You could wear it to cover up all of your hair because you can't even see that I have hair underneath this. Quick, easy. Like I said, I use the party yarns. Other yarns you could use is the Landscape Breeze. You use regular Landscape too. You can use Chroma from Knitpicks. No, yeah, or you could use Prism from Mary Maxim. Use stuff in your stash. Get 2 colors that are opposite, a light and a dark, and go for it. Tutorial's pretty easy. It's mostly V-stitches, granny stitches. There is a bubble popcorn thing at the beginning, but there's only 1 row of that. It's really easy hat pattern. It's really fast. And I just wanted to do something for the community to work on together. And I hope that you make this hat, and I hope that you'll share with me your creations. And let's go to the tutorial. Alright, today we are doing a tutorial for this really cute hat. This is actually the prototype, so the one we're making today is just mildly different than this one. But see all the beautiful fun colors. This is same hat. little different version. Now I really like this hat. I like the fun colors and the way that the colors stripe. And to do this fun color hat that makes me so happy because it's so cheerful, it's a random amount of stitches. Like there's V stitches in here, there's granny stitches in here, there's half double crochets in here. I think there's double crochets in here. So I mixed it up, and almost every row is different, and we kind of just we just kept changing the way it looked. So every couple rows we would change it. I did this for fun, but I also did this just to spark my creativity. And also the way that we get the colors is I used two very contrasting colorways. Okay, this yarn was used with little tiny micro balls of Feels Like something or another. It's a line brand yarn. Nope, it was not Feels Like. What was it? Landscapes Breeze. So this was each one of these are little micro balls. These are the sample size. These are just something I had left over. So if you have 2 shades of the Landscape Breeze, this would make a hat. I don't remember what colors these were because these were little sample balls, but each one of these took, I'm going to say, about the equivalent of 3 of those micro balls, because I used 1.5. So I used one of this darker colorway, one of the lighter colorway, and then down here it's 2 different colors. So I used a half of each one of those balls. So it's the equivalent of about 3 balls. So Landscape Breeze is a really good option for this hat, but I don't have any big balls of the Landscape Breeze, and as much as I loved working with it, and I really like this yarn and the feel of the hat, I'm actually today using the Party yarn, which is a 4-weight. It is definitely a different constructed yarn. It is way different constructed, but I think it will work just the same. Where did I put my hook? Here, I got my glasses. I brought the pattern that I wrote. Where did I put the hook? Oh my god, I lost the hook. Okay, so the colors of the Party, I don't know if these colors still exist. This was actually, I was making a top out of this, and we're actually going to have to frog this piece back. So the blue colorway is the color Beach, and the pink colorway that I'm using is the color Confetti. I thought that these were very high contrast colors on the different end of the color wheel, and I thought they would be beautiful together. I also like these two in combination for this pattern because while these are not self-striping, much like the Landscape Breeze, it shifts colors frequently. So even though this whole row is one solid color, see how the color is shifting as it goes along, and it shifts from this color to that color, and it shifts from pink to blue in this row. So it gives a really interesting look to this yarn. So another yarn that would probably be good for this is Mary Maxim Prism. Would probably work really well because it does the same kind of color shifting thing. Or Chroma from Knitpicks. So there are your options. If you have any of those in stash, no need to buy more. We can just use what we have in stash. So the Party yarn in 2 different colors, or the Chroma, or Mary Maxim yarn, or the Sea Breeze. I really wish I had some more of this Landscapes Breeze. I really, really like that yarn. So that is on my list. My computer's not happy. It's yelling at me from across the room. Yeah. So we are going to be carrying both yarns along as we go. That means we're going to connect both balls of yarn in the second row. Both of them are going to be connected. And we are going to keep them connected the whole time. I'm going to pause and find my hook. I'll be right back. Not the hook I was using, but we're going to substitute. Okay. Now, because the top of the hat kind of looks like a little flower, I'm going to start with the pink colorway. I don't know why I pulled out the blue like that, but I'm going to start with the lighter, the pink color. Apparently this one was a sample too. This one was knit and crochet, so this means this was part of a, this one was used in, look at, there's blue in there. That's going to be so pretty together. This was used in a yarn review video, whereas the other one was part of a project I was trying to start. Alright, we're going to put that off camera. Now, I'm going to pull you guys a little bit closer to me. To get started, we are going to do a magic ring. If you don't know how to do a magic ring, I show you, it's really easy. You can literally just make a slip knot, because that's basically what a magic ring is, okay? So to make a magic ring or a slip knot, you take your short tail, you put it under the bottom, put it, see, X marks the spot, you pinch the X, you go into the hole, you grab the yarn, you pull it up, then you chain one. Now we're going to work over the top of both of those tails all the way around. Alright, chain one just creates the magic loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2 more. 1, 2, for a grand total of the 3 chains at the beginning of the row. I split the yarn and twisted it. Oh no! Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to make 5, I'm calling them a bobble, popcorn stitch, whatever you're going to call it, it's a bobble. It's one of those, okay? So you wrap the yarn like you're making a double crochet, you go in, you pull up a loop, you pull off 2, there should be, this is going to be splitty yarn today, huh? There should be 2 loops on the hook. Wrap the yarn, go in the magic loop again, pull up a loop, pull off 2. There should be 3 loops on the hook. Do it again, wrap the yarn, go in the magic loop, pull up a loop, pull off 2. There should be 4 on here, and you're going to pull through all 4. Now you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Wrap the yarn like you're making a double crochet, go in, and we're going to do the same thing again. Pull up a loop, pull off 2, wrap, in, pull off 2, wrap, pull up, whoop, pull off 2, till you have 4 loops on there, and then you pull through all 4, and then you chain 2 again. The yarn is wrapping around itself because it was in stitches too long. And we're going to do that again. So it's basically you're making 3 double crochets together, okay? You're gonna pull up a loop, pull off 2, wrap, pull up, pull off 2, wrap, pull up, pull off 2, pull off all 4, chain 2. Now we have 1, 2, 3 clusters. Do it again. You can rewind and you can slow me down if you're confused. It's okay if you're confused. If you're new here, it's fine. So we've made another cluster, chain 2. 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 We need 1 more cluster because we want 5. I'm going to pull that tail just so it's long enough to keep working over the top of it. Make another cluster, popcorn, bobble, whatever you want to call it. Chain 2. Then we pull our tail tight, close off the center of that circle. I pull this to the top, and see how there's this bigger stitch right here? We're just going to slip stitch in there to join. That is the top of the cluster. I'm going to pull my tail over because I'm going to work over the top of it to kind of lock it in. Slip stitch to join. Alright, now this is where we are adding in the blue, if I can find the end, which is somewhere in this little pile of curlicues. Where's the end? Oh, while I'm finding the end, we went to the movies this weekend. We have been seeing a lot of movies that are sponsored by, I don't remember what it's sponsored by, but it's like old classic movies. And we got to go see Never-Ending Story in theaters, which I don't think I've ever seen it all the way through. So it was kind of a fun little thing. What's happening right there? We got a weird knot. Alright, now, just to attach this, I'm leaving about a 2-inch tail. Pinch it to the front, pull up a loop, pull the pink tight, okay? We are going to crochet over all 3 of these little pieces right here just to lock in for that first stitch. So this row is color B. We're doing granny clusters. Alright, so in between each of these clusters, if you got pull it apart, pull it apart. So I'm turning it over, I'm working the other direction. See, and I pulled my stitch out. Two-inch tail. Pull it through. Pull the pink to lock it in. We're going to chain. No, we're not. We're going to turn it over. Turn it over. Have the bumpy parts facing you. Put all your tails over on this side. Right? In between the clusters, slip stitch over here. Make sure everything is nice and tight. I'm going to slip stitch over the top of all those stitches, lock it in. We're going to chain 1, 2, and 3. And I am going to take the pink one and move it out of the way. So this is this is color A. Move it out of the way so you're not crocheting over the top of it. The 2 shorter tails I'm going to crochet over the top of, okay? So what we're doing in here is in each space here, we're going to do granny chain 2, okay? So we have a chain 3, counts as a double crochet, but 2 more double crochet in that chain space. We're making a hexagon. So that's 3 double crochet, that counts as a granny cluster, chain 2, and then put 3 more double crochet in that same space. Two and 3. Alright, no chain in between here. So the only chain spaces you're putting is between the 2 double crochet cluster, or the granny clusters. Granny cluster, chain 2, granny cluster. Okay, no chains over here. Skip to the next space in between the granny cluster, or the bobbles, popcorn, whatever you call them, okay? And I'm still crocheting over the top of my tails to kind of lock them in. We're going to put 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet in that space. 2, 3, chain 2, 3 more double crochet, no chain space. Go to the next space. We're in between the clusters, the chain 2 space. Put another granny, which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Little man is in the other room. He is making a ton of noise, which means he's bored and he's getting into stuff. Trying to get him to go upstairs and take care of his bedroom, but as long as he's being kind of quiet, we're going to be good to go. Alright, so that was granny, chain 2, granny. Alright. See how we're starting to see the edges of the hexagon? Alright. Go to the next chain space. Do the same thing. Granny, chain 2, granny. 3 double crochet. Chain 2. 3 double crochet. Now this is going to be the right side of the hat. Actually, no. This is the right side. The way it was facing when you first started is the right side of the hat. So if you need to put a little stitch marker on there and say, hey, this is the correct side, this is going to be the side facing out, then you do that. That's the front side, okay? And the reason I say that is because we're going to be carrying these yarns up, and you want them carried up in the inside of the hat. You don't want them carried up on the outside of the hat. It will look really crazy. Alright, we're in the last chain space, so we're going to put a granny, chain 2, granny, 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. And that's why we move this out of the way so it doesn't get tangled up, because that's the pink one. And what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to slip stitch to join in that first chain 3 space. Okay, slip stitch to join. Drop the blue. Drop the blue on the side where you don't have the outside, so you're going to drop it towards you, because this is going to be the inside of the hat, because we already carried up the pink right there, right? Now we are going to sneeze, so hang on. Oh, bless me. Alright. We're going to pick up the blue, and we're going to pull, or picking up the pink, and we're going to pull the blue tight. Alright. And we're going to turn it back around. Move the blue, or the blue that we just used, out of the way. Always crochet over the first section. Like when you do this first stitch, slip stitch back into the space over the top of that stitch. It will just lock it in just a little bit, and then put it to the back so we're not crocheting with it. And we're using the pink one now, or the lighter color, color A. And then we're going to chain 3. And once again, we are doing pretty much the same thing. So here in the peaks where the corners are, we're going to put the same granny cluster. So it's going to, each one of these peaks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, are going to have the granny increase. So it will be 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, and then right here where we just joined in is just going to be a regular old granny. So we're going to put 3 double crochet. Oops. I'm going to keep that blue tucked to the back so we're not crocheting over the top of it in this second stitch. See, it's just back there. And then in the next stitch, we're not putting chain spaces in between the regular grannies. The only chain spaces will be in the corners, okay? And there should be 5 corners. So in the corner, we're going to put 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet, now we have a chain space, or a space here in between this shell and the corner shell. And so we're just going to put a regular old granny, which is 3 double crochets with no chains. Next stitch is a corner, so we're going to put 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. We're just making a granny hexagon at this point. And it's pretty easy. Next space is just a granny shell, which consists of 3 double crochet. I feel like this is not as contrasted as I would maybe like. It's alright. It'll work out. We're in the corner, so we're doing a granny increase, which is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Next stitch is just a granny, 3 double crochet in between the clusters. If you ever get confused what stitch you're looking at, just grab your yarn and just pull it apart. Okay, see there's a bigger hole right here? That means there's a space there you need to work into. Okay, we're in the corner. 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet in the corners. And if you have a hard time seeing where your corners are, put stitch markers everywhere if you need to. Safety pins, like whatever you need, paper clips, barrettes, all those things work. Next is in between the 2 granny stitches here, so it's just a regular old granny stitch of 3 double crochet. to the corner, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Trying to keep track of where we are in the pattern. Alright, and then we're going to slip stitch to join in the first chain 3 space right here. We're going to grab color B, which is for me the blue one. We're going to slip stitch that in there. We're going to pull the pink tight. Now we're turning it over again. And once again, we're going to slip stitch over the previous color just to lock in so that stitch don't loosen up. And we're going to chain 3, which counts as a granny. Make sure we're carrying up on the correct side. 2 more double crochets equals a granny. And in this corner, we're going to put another increase. Chain 2, 3 double crochet. So 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. And I'm going to take a water break and take a little drink. And the next stitch is just going to be a granny. Well, it's not in the not in the next stitch, in the next space. So it's not a chain space, it's just a gap. So on this side we have a space here and a space here, and those are each going to get a granny, and then in the corner we're going to increase. Okay, so we got the corner, there's going to be a granny in this space, a granny in this space, and then a granny increase in the corner. And you're going to do this all the way around. You're just going to repeat that. Granny increase is 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Skip over and go into the space in between the grannies, put a granny. Skip over this granny shell and in the space put a granny. In the corner, put an increase, 3 double crochet, chain 2, 3 double crochet. Listen to the sound of that clunking against my desk, which is driving me crazy. Skip to the next space, put a granny. We're just gonna, you guys already got this. You know what to do. When you see a space, put a granny. When you see a corner, put an increase. See, you can kind of see the colors contrasting a little bit. Not as much with the sea breeze, or it's not sea breeze, the landscape breeze. I still think it's gonna be pretty. I'm wondering if maybe I should have used a more baby pink one that I have over there. I think I grabbed these because they already had samples worked on them. I'm like, they've been sitting there for a while, might as well use them. Which is the same kind of thing with when I used the Landscape Breeze. I've had those samples for a while. I did a review on those yarns. I'm like, they've been sitting there for a while. I pulled out one of my buckets and I'm like, I'm just going to use my little samples. And this hat literally came from just me trying to be creative and trying to play with my yarn, which is what I'm most known for, is just playing with my yarn. I don't take crochet too seriously. At least I don't generally. And I'm trying to get back to the enjoyment of creating instead of the job of creating, because turning a creative job into a job can kill your creativeness, can kill your spark. So I'm trying to reverse some of that with this hat. One little spark. I'll see, we got figment going on. Apparently I'm bringing a receipt with me. My yarn's like, here, you need to look at your Lion Brand receipt. Look how much money you spent at Lion Brand. Lion Brand wants you to buy more yarn. Well, I bet they do. Lion Brand says our yarn is better. Use that. No, it's not. Alright, so we got around to the front of the row. We're going to slip stitch. I'm going to grab color A. Pull it through. Pull color B. Rotate. What row are we on? Alright, this row is going to be just double crochet. So, what we're going to do, we are going to actually slip stitch into, see, we pulled up color A, but we still want to lock in color B. So, what we're going to do is it's on the wrong side. That needs to be over there. Lucas is trying to get the dog to bark. He's saying, Dad's home, Dad's home. Daddy ain't home. Fool, what are you thinking? Sorry, I'm trying to get everything like nice and tight so I can do this the correct way. Instead of working in the chain space here, we're going to work in the top of the stitches here. So for every granny cluster, we're going to have a single, or not a single crochet. We're going to slip stitch into that. Hang on. What color am I? I'm working with color A. Pull everything tight. Everything's too loose. I am going to slip stitch over the top of color B, which we were just working with. We're going to slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. I know that was really hard to see. Okay, so I just slip stitch into the top of the double crochet. So for every granny cluster, there's 1, 2, 3 double crochets. The little hole right there, we're going to work into the top of the holes of those. Okay, so we're going to chain 3. It counts as a double crochet. We're working with color A again. Make sure color B is on the back. And then we are going to double crochet in every one of those granny stitches. We're not doing any increases in this row. Okay. And then over here, we're at the corner, so we have 3 double crochets. We're going to put 3 double crochets in. And in the corner, we're just going to put 1 single double crochet, a solitary double crochet in the corner. So whereas we would normally put a granny cluster chain 2, we're only putting a double crochet in that stitch. So I mean, technically there's a small increase on this row, but not really. And then in each double crochet going down, we're double crocheting. Oops. If you have a really large head and you don't feel like this hat is going to fit, you can do another row of the granny around to make this bigger. But I have a pretty large head and this fits me. But if you have bigger than like a 22, 23 inch head and you just feel like this needs to be bigger, you can add an additional row of the granny row. So instead of doing double crochet here, just add another row of the granny and then go to the double crochet row. If you have a really small peanut head, you can take 1 row of the granny shell out and move on to the next row. So that's one way you can alter the size of this hat pattern. You can add a row, you can take a row off. If you're going to add a row or take off a row, I would do it in the granny hexagon section just to make your life easier. I'm just going around and in the top of every double crochet, I'm putting a double crochet. So in between the shells, I'm not putting nothing. The only place you're putting in between the shells is in the corners. So for every shell, So on this side, let's see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 shells. So you should have 4 times 3 is 12. You should have 12 double crochets and then a 13th in the corner and a 14th in this corner. And that's how many shell or double crochets you could have. In case you hear my son with a slapping noise and him saying, "Ow," he's high-fiving himself, because that usually gets Scarlett to bark. She doesn't like high fives. It makes her bark. She thinks they're literally hurting themselves. I also can't high-five my children because she will bark at me. And she's not biting. She's like, "I'm not feeding into that. Mommy's recording a video. I'm going to be a good girl today." And also, like, it's just me and little man in the house today. Everyone else is at work. And you know he's in there. He can't stand being quiet. I'm just double crocheting in every top of every stitch. And putting 1 double crochet in each one of the peaks or the corners where we normally do an increase. And this will bring the hat to start looking like a hat instead of a hexagon. It will round it out, and it will start to bring the sides to curve down to be the top of the hat. I learned this technique of turning, well, not so much a hexagon, but there was a hat pattern 6-7 years ago that became popular, and I even did it on the channel. And it's literally taking a granny square. You make a granny square, and it was like a 5-row granny square, and then you do this method and it turns it into a hat. So I mean, you could take you can do a granny square in this method. You could do a granny hexagon in this method to start this hat. I just drastically changed from because there's a big difference between a hexagon and a square. We all know that. Like a whole nother side. Whole nother set of corners. You better get off our corner. Sorry. I have a myriad of movies and song quotes just floating around in my head, and at any given moment it just pops out. I'll say something, somebody else will say something, and it will spark a quote, and then I just have to verbalize it. My brain is fun that way. See how it's trying to curve up this way? It'll actually curve down that way once we get going. Because this is the top of our hat. I'm actually really liking these colors now that we got going a little bit. They're starting to be a little more of a contrast. The more contrast yarn you have, the more the different colored rows will show up. And you can honestly do this with all one color or a variegated yarn if you want. You can do this with whatever self-striping yarn you want. I just like the way it looked with these different colors. You can also do 2 solid colors if you're, you want stripies and you want fun, but you don't want to go like all out with like this weirdness. You can just do 2 solid colors. 2 Dollar Tree balls of yarn would work as well. You do a variegated and a stripy yarn, or a variegated and a solid together. And that would be fun. We're almost back to the beginning, which means I need to flip my book over and see what stitch we're doing next. Now see here, it's kind of crumbled a little bit because like we slip stitched and there's still a stitch there, so I gotta kind of fudge it and put a stitch in where the slip stitch was. Alright, now we're gonna slip stitch to the first chain 3. Boop, boop, and then we'll pull up color B. If I can find it, it's back there somewhere. Come on! Alright, pull color A taut. Flip my book over so I can read the rest of my notes. Alright, now we're doing V-stitches. Okay, so we're working with the darker color, color B. We're doing V-stitches. And to do a V-stitch, we're just going to chain 1, 2, 3, 4. Chain 4. In that same stitch and over your tail of color A. If I can get in there. we are going to put a double crochet. So a V-stitch is chain 3, no, well, chain 4, double crochet, same stitch, but for the next is going to be a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. So that's a V-stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet creates a V. We are going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and in the third put a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip 2 stitches and in the third put a V-stitch. We're going to do this all the way around. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the same stitch. It should look like that. Skip 2 stitches, put a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip 2, V-stitch. I'm going to have to change my battery because we're almost dead. And my yarn is splitting. Skip 2, V-stitch in the third. Alright, just continue doing that all around. I'm going to change my battery and I'll meet you at the end of the row. Skip 2 and in the third put a V-stitch, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. Skip 2, V-stitch in the third, etc., etc. I will be right back. Alright, see how it's curling around? We're going to want to just fold that the other direction. Alright, so now we got towards the end of the row and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. So because we have 4 stitches left, and you may have a different amount, I'm just going in the center here. I'm just fudging it. It's not going to matter in the grand scheme of things, but if you put it too close to here, it will, you know. So we're just going to put it in the middle. I actually only skipped 1 stitch and then put the V-stitch. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm using a 5.5mm hook. Alright, and then we're just going to slip stitch around there. Alright, so somewhere in the V-stitch, I just slip stitch to join. We're going to pull up color A. Once again, switch it over by doing a slip stitch. Alright, now this one we are doing another row of these. Okay, we have a bunch of those, bud. If you want to watch them, you can put them in the Xbox, I think. We are making another row of V-stitches, but we're doing them in the center of the V-stitches here, which will change later on in the video. So I'm going to do one more slip stitch so that we're more in the center of the V-stitch. We're going to chain 4, which counts as a double crochet, chain 1, put another double crochet in the same area, right? Make sure that our color B that we just were working with is dropped into the back side. Alright, now as you go around in the center of every V-stitch, you're just going to put another V-stitch. It's like that. And actually the row after that, same thing. So we're going to do 2 rows exactly the same after this. So we're going to do this one and then a following row. So V-stitch in the V-stitch row. Okay. So in the middle of each. So we have the V-stitch, and in the V-stitch is going to be the V-stitch. Now later on we're going to actually stagger them, so it doesn't matter what you do, honestly. It doesn't matter where you put the V-stitches. It's all about aesthetics. So in the V here, put a V. All the way around. And when you get to the end of this row, do another row exactly like this one. And we'll just sit and chat while we're putting our V-stitches in our V-stitches, because I don't think you need much more explanation than that. It's pretty simple. It should look like that. See how the V's are stacked inside the V's. This actually reminds me of a yarn that I used to have called, what was it called? It was a cotton yarn. It was very similar to this one. Actually, both of them. It was by Premier. What was that yarn? Muirwoods. It was my favorite yarn for a long time. Like, I really liked it. And then I moved on and I found better yarns that I liked more. I mean, the colors were beautiful. I might have a skein or 2 of that still somewhere. But the colors were very similar like this. It was just like several strands of like colors mixed together with one main color. But it was cotton and it was rough. It was much rougher on the skin than this is. The party yarn is pretty nice. The only problem is it's splitty. It is splitty. The little man is bringing me DVDs from the Disney sing-along songs. You guys remember those videos? I have a handful of them, but we were watching them on YouTube the other day, and he didn't know that we had them because he's never really been one to sit and watch TV, even when he was a baby. He would not sit and watch anything. And the other girls love TV. All three of them would put on videos and sing and dance, and he was busy doing other things. So that's why he came in. He's like, Mom, look, I didn't know we had these. Yeah, babe. Mom's been a Disney addict for a long time. We got a lot of Disney stuff going on. Don't forget when you get to the end of this row, when you do the next row, to change color. Because I didn't say that. I just said do 2 rows of V-stitches, but we're switching every single row. We're going A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B, A, B. I keep rubbing on the edge of my paper and it's starting to irritate me. It's going against my arm. I always call things out in videos because I don't know exactly how much this microphone is picking up. I know that this camera has like an excellent microphone built in, and it picks up sometimes, like, you know, when you swallowed water and your throat makes that weird noise. Sometimes the camera will pick up that noise and I'm like, I'm not even that close to the camera. How is it picking up my throat noises? It's weird. Alright, we got to the end of the row. I'm going to slip stitch into the V. I'm going to drop color A. Pick up color B with a slip stitch. I'm going to do one more slip stitch around color A to lock it in. Chain 4. Put a V-stitch in this V-stitch. And all the way around, repeat this row. Alright, I'm going to pause because we don't need to make this video 8 hours long. Just V-stitches all the way around. Alright, so we got our 3 rows of V-stitches. 1, 2, 3. We're at the end of the row. Slip stitch to join. Grab color A. Pull color B tight. Slip stitch over it to lock in the stitch. Now we're going to do grannies, but the grannies are not going to be staggered. Much like the V's, where the V's are in each other, the granny shells are going to be stacked on top of each other, as opposed to usually they're staggered. We're going to stack them on top of each other, okay? But I will show you how to do that. It's not difficult. Chain 3. In the same V-stitch, put 2 more double crochet. I'm not supposed to be crocheting over the top of that tail like that. I'm just doing it anyway. It'll be fine. Alright. We're putting a granny shell inside each V-stitch all the way around. So there's 3 double crochet in. Instead of doing a V-stitch in the V-stitch, we're doing a granny. So 3 double crochet in each V-stitch all the way around. It should look like this. Okay. Nothing difficult here. Nothing difficult. I measured this up to my other hat. It's measuring perfectly fine. So the sizing is correct for my hat. There's nothing worse than making a hat and going, oh, I made it too big, or oh, I made it too small. And I told you guys how to alter it in case. I'm actually getting rid of this stitch marker. It's driving me crazy because it's jingling. I already know what side's the outside, so we're good to go. I also pulled one of my stitches loose. Alright. Granny in the V-stitch. My feet are like ice in here. I need to find my slippers. The weather finally broke to where it's not 110 degrees every day. I mean, it's still been in the upper 80s, but the upper 80s in my house feels like frigid because my AC works really good when it's in the 80s, but when it gets in the hundreds, the AC doesn't work at all. It's like, no, it's still hot. So, I actually had a cardigan on a little bit earlier over my tank top. But now because I'm crocheting, my arms are getting warm, and so I'm like, time to take my cardigan off. So if you fold your hat in half, it should look like that. You're still going to have a little bit of bumps on the top, but when you put it on, like where the peaks are, when you put it on your head, you're not going to see that. The yarn is sticking to my fingers. That means I probably need lotion. The next 2 rows are going to be a repeat of this, of granny shells. But the granny shells are going to go in the center of the granny shell, not in between. So instead of normally you would put a granny shell in between the granny, we're going to put them right here in the center here. So if you want to go ahead, if you're ahead of me, if you're crocheting faster than me, you can just go ahead to the next row. For the rest of us that are crocheting a little bit slower, that's what we're doing next for the next 2 rows. So we're going to have 3 rows of stacked grannies. Hearing music bumping really loud. I can't tell if it's upstairs or it's a neighbor. Little man might be playing upstairs music, but he's been playing a video game called Hydro Thunder. It's a boat racing game. He actually didn't know that he had it, and they're closing the video game store for the system he has. And he started to panic that he's not going to be able to play that game anymore if he couldn't buy it. And Mr. Cinnamon went in there and he's all, it's on my account still, bud. You just got to log into my account. Because he really likes Hydro Thunder. Alright, we got to the beginning of the row. We're going to slip stitch to join. We're going to drop color A, pick up color B. And actually, yeah, we're going to slip stitch that in. Pull color A tight, and then we're going to slip stitch over 1 stitch. Just over, whoops, I grabbed some pink. So that we're in the center here. So you have the 3 double crochets. We connected here. We're going to slip stitch over to the center, or actually it might be this way for you, but slip stitch into the center of the granny because that's where we're working. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and in that same stitch put 2 more double crochet. So we're working the granny out of the center of the granny. It should look, well, that looks really wonky, but it should look like that. So see how you have the 3, and we're working out of the center of the 3, Then we're going to go over to this next granny shell and the same thing. Here's the first post, second post, third post, and that second post we're going to put a granny. So 3 double crochets in that same stitch. You're going to do this all the way around, and then when you get, see, we're in 1, 2, 3, you need to be in the second stitch here. When you get to the end of the row, drop color B, pick up color A, and repeat this row. So you should have 3 rows of the stacked granny, but because you don't need to see me repeat the same row a couple more times, I'm going to pause here. And when I come back, I will have the pink row, the blue row, and another pink row of the stacked granny, and we will move on to the next step of the hat. Alright, we are at the end of the third of the granny and on a granny, stacked granny, granny got stacked. Slip stitch to join, change to color B. Let's see, where are we at in the pattern? Oh, we're back to V stitches. Alright, these are V stitches, so we're going to slip stitch over 1. Right? Is that what I did? Let me double check my hat. Yes, sir. So we're going to slip stitch over 1 like we did previously. Hang on, let me make sure. Let me make sure I'm holding the pink one. There. Alright. Slip stitch over 1. Move the pink out the way. My yarn is getting twisted, so we're just going to move that. Alright. Don't get it twisted. Now we're going to make V stitches, so we're going to chain 4, and in that same stitch, put a double crochet. Now this set of V stitches, so we're doing again 3 rows of the V stitches. Instead of the V stitches being in the V stitches, we're gonna stagger them. So we're gonna have, oh look at that, my finger was making an extra V and I didn't even realize it. So they're gonna be staggered. All right. So that doesn't do anything for this row. We're gonna put exactly like we were doing in the previous row with the grannies. Is we're just gonna, instead of doing a granny, we're gonna do a V stitch. So double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in the middle stitch, just like we were doing with the grannies. Okay, you do that all the way around. And then the next row we'll change it up. And I will show you. Now if you get confused by any of this, you can, I'm gonna be real honest, you could play with either one of these sets of stitches. You can do a row of V-stitch, granny, V-stitch, granny, V-stitch, granny. You can do that if you wanted. You can change them up. It's all the same stitch count, so they're all stitches that are a multiple of 3. You could alternate these rows as many ways as you want, but if you follow along with me, you'll be like one of the cool kids. Yay! I was hearing Ernie in my voice from Bert and Ernie. Yay! Or even Grover. He waves his arms and goes, yay! Oh no, that's Kermit. That's Kermit. Kermit does that. I think Grover does that too. Secret question in the middle of a tutorial. Who is your favorite Sesame Street character? Who's your favorite? Personally, I like Slimy. When I was a little girl, I loved Maria, who is not actually a Muppet, but she was still on Sesame Street. My little sister was all about Big Bird. Like, Big Bird was her thing. I liked Oscar. Oreo, why do you not pop the door? She walks in, she looks at me, and then she exits every time. You can be nosy and look around, or you can actually lay in Bentley's bed. Nope, Bentley's in his bed. She's actually going to lay down on the rug. The dog don't never lay on the rug. And it's cold in here. And she left. In case you don't know, Oreo is my old lady dog who is covered in tumors. and hates when my office door is closed and will complete all day long. Unless I lock it, she will pop the door open over and over again. And I keep her out of here because, well, I need the door to stay closed. She is the barker who like neurotically barks at nothing for no apparent reason. And she will pop the door sometimes so that Bentley can come in here and steal. Because Bentley's a little thief. And so Bentley's only allowed in my office when I'm in here. I keep slipping out of my stitches repeatedly. I love my Omi hooks, I really do, but I also have noticed that when I started using the dot hooks, which I have misplaced my 5.5mm hook, I don't slip out of my stitches as much. So that's the hook I was supposed to use today, but so the next 2 rows are going to be a repeat of the next row that I'm about to show you. Piece of yarn is black right there, and it kind of looked like there was a gnat stuck in my yarn. And it's just, you see it? It's just a black piece of yarn. Like, there better not be no bug in my hat. Have you ever been crocheting and you're thinking about something else? And this might just be a Jen thing. This might be an ADHD thing. You're thinking about something else in your head and you're crocheting along and you start doing a different stitch. Or you're watching somebody on TV and you're crocheting. Or we're just going to slip stitch to join, but we're going to do something different here. I do actually have a story. Hang on. I'm going to slip stitch back to the... Is that the pink? Wow, the pink looks just like the blue right now. Alright, now we are going to turn it over just for a second and slip stitch backwards. And the reason we're going to do that is because we are now working in between the V stitches. So what I want is to be in between the V stitches, not in the center. So instead of in the center like we did last time, I'm going to be in between. So we're going to be in this space. And so I just slip stitch backwards into that space, and then we're going to chain 4 to create the V stitch and put a double crochet in that same stitch. And we're going to do this for this row, and then we're going to do it one more time. So see how there's a V stitch here and a V stitch here, and we're in between. That's what we're aiming for. We're going to skip this V stitch. We're going to go over to the space in between and put a V stitch. We're going to do that all the way around, and we're also going to repeat that same exact row one more time. So you will have 3 rows of staggered V stitches instead of stacked. And that's what that should look like. Alright, do this row. Do one more row after this, and then we're almost done with the hat. We have just a couple more rows after this and we'll be done. So I'll meet you at the end of the, not the end of this row, but the end of the following row after that. So you should have 3 rows of staggered 1, 2, 1 more row. Alright. We are at the end of the V-stitch rows. Now, I'm going to connect color A once again. This is what my hat is looking like. We got 3 V-stitches inside each other, 3 stacked grannies, 3 staggered V-stitch rows. Now, the last 3 rows are just going to be the brim. If you try this on and you feel like it's a good length for you, if you have maybe a smaller, shorter head, you can just do like a row of double crochets, half double crochets to give you a border. I have a bigger head, so I'm going to add 3 rows. We're going to have 3 more rows to make the brim for my head, but at any point you can make the brim longer or shorter just by repeating one of these rows. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a row of double crochets, and then I'm following that with 2 rows of half double, but I'm still going to alternate. So I'm going to do color A is going to be the double crochet, color B is going to be a half double crochet, and then the last row is going to be color A, and it's going to be a half double crochet. So I'm going to do a row of double crochets here for you guys, and we already got the pink, so we're going to chain 3, 2, 3. And in every V-stitch, just to make our lives easier, we're going to have 3 double crochets. So because we did a chain 3, that counts as a, this is technically a granny stitch, but we're not using it as a granny stitch. We're just trying to create, actually no, scratch that. We're going to do chain 3. In the center of the V-stitch, we're going to put a double crochet. And in the outer stitch, we're going to put a double crochet. So for every what is this called? V-stitch. Every V-stitch, you should have the equivalent of 3 double crochet. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 here, 1 double crochet here, 1 double crochet here, and 1 double crochet here. But if you want to put all 3 in the center, you can do that. Or if you're going to do half double crochets, I mean, you do you. You just need the equivalent of however many V-stitches you have. You should have 3 double crochets for each one of those, the equivalent. So you can put them all in the center and do a row of grannies. You can do like I'm doing. So on the outside there's a stitch. In the center of the V-stitch is a stitch. And on this other side here is a stitch. I'm just doing double crochets all the way around. Next row we're going to switch to color B. We're going to do half double crochets all the way around. I also make my hats a little bit longer because, I mean, I don't have a ponytail right now because my hair is short, but generally when I wear a hat, I add extra room and extra length for my ponytail. So that's why we're doing a row of doubles and then 2 rows of half doubles, just to make sure it's long enough. But if you have a shorter head, you can just do a row of the half doubles and it'll be fine. Just to give it, you know, that little finishing touch. Thank you so much for making a hat with me today. I really appreciate us spending this time together. I've been wanting to do a tutorial for the past several months. It seems like I just never have enough time to do a tutorial. And so it occurred to me that smaller items like a hat is something a lot of us have a use for. But it's also a quick little afternoon or morning project that we can create together without taking 3-4 days to film. And then, you know, we still have a community project. That's one of my favorite things about this channel is the sense of community we have in the togetherness. And right now, specifically in my life, like, it's extra important to have the sense of community and togetherness. And of course, if you make this hat, I always say this in every one of my tutorials, I love seeing what you guys do to change it up. I love seeing what yarns you picked and how you perceived the pattern and how you chose to alter it. I love seeing that. So if you make this hat, if you have a channel, share it on your channel. I will pop over and watch the video. As long as you tag me at Cinnamon Stitches, I will watch it. You can also put it in the Facebook group. We're accepting members once again, so you can put it in the Facebook group. And if you don't want to join Facebook or you just want to private send that to me, I do not answer messages on Facebook. I don't even read them. But you can email me. My email is always listed in the description box below. You just gotta scroll all the way down. Or you can put it on Instagram and @Cinnamon Stitches there too, and I will see it. Bentley, stop, that sounds gross. Hey. Stop. Nobody wants to hear you grooming. That sounds grody. He's like, I'm just going to continue. I'm ignoring you. If you hear him grooming himself, he's grooming himself. He's in the corner having a moment. I swear he's like a cat sometimes. Big old dog cat. I'm just going to sit here and lick myself. So if after this row you try it on and you feel like it's long enough, you don't need it to add any length, you can cut it and call it a day. Weave in your ends. I'm actually going to do that myself and just make sure the size is right, because the last one we're just going to slip stitch to the top of that chain 3 at the beginning of the row. I have 2 more rows on the other 2. Yeah, I'm going to do 2 more rows still, just because I have a big head. I got a big head. I'm going to switch to color B. I'm just going to do half double crochets around. At the end of this row, I'm going to cut color B. I'm going to do 1 more row of half doubles with the color A. We're just putting a half double in every row. You can actually do singles at this point too. I don't do singles on the brim of a hat because single crochets are they're not stretchy. There's no give in a single crochet, and because of that I tend to steer clear of single crochets in my hats because I like them to be a little bit extra stretchy, and half doubles have way more stretch than single crochets do, and double crochets have even more stretch than both of those. So if I'm going to do a brim, I don't ever put single crochets. It just makes the hat too restrictive, too bound. It doesn't want to have any give when I do single crochets, and because I have a large head, I steer clear. That's why we're doing half doubles. But I mean, if you want to do singles, you can, but keep in mind there's not going to be any stretch if you do single crochets. I got a song stuck in my head and I feel like singing it. And of course, you already know, if you know me, it's a Fall Out Boy song. And Oreo popped the door once again. She's a pain in my neck. Generally, when I'm doing a tutorial, I lock that door because of her constant popping the door. But, because it's just me and little man home, I need that door to stay open. Or at least have it openable in case he needs something that requires my assistance. And he's getting right at the edge of, Mom, I need you to come back in the other room and entertain me because he keeps coming to the door and knocking. I know you guys have heard him. Mom, I'm bored. Mom, can you? Mom, can I? Mom, something. And this is, if we do any tutorials in the upcoming months, it's going to be a miracle because we're going to be starting homeschooling at the beginning of September. And I've never homeschooled before. But I think I may be able to pull off some tutorials while he's homeschooling, just because he's old enough and smart enough to, he's doing coding right now. Like, he has a laptop and he's writing code to create websites and web pages. I mean, he's not actually putting them on the internet, but he's writing the code. He's also been doing blogging, and he's doing stuff on the computer I couldn't even imagine. Like, he's literally writing code. And all that weird script that shows up when a web page doesn't load, he's writing the code. And I know that he's going to be able to do a lot of his schoolwork with me just like somewhere close by in case he needs assistance. So he's going to be doing a lot of independent study. I guarantee he's going to do fine with that. So we may be able to, but that's all going to be up in the air, and we got to figure a lot of things out in the upcoming months and just play everything by ear. Which I'm not as stressed out about that as I was. I feel like everything's going to be okay. I also know that I have a good support system. So, which means he has a good support system. Alright. So what I'm going to do, I am going to slip stitch color B, and I'm going to actually cut it off. Because we're done with color B. I'm going to go in the stitch before that and grab color A and do one more row of half doubles right over the top of this end, so I don't have to necessarily weave it in later. Because when I crochet over the top of my ends, I never have a problem with them coming out. I know some people are against that. If you're against that, I mean, it's your hat, do what you want. You can weave it in, I don't care. There's only 2 ends to weave in because we carried all the yarn. Really excited about dinner tonight while we're doing this last row. I am making unstuffed cabbage rolls. So I'm making basically cabbage roll stew, which Mr. Cinnamon makes something similar called albundigas. But I'm actually using the recipe for cabbage rolls instead of his albundigas recipe. That's going to be the same kind of idea. And I'm putting it in my Instapot. I have cooked in my Instapot twice this week. This will be the 3rd time. If you didn't hear that story, I got one for $20 and it was like new at the thrift store. And so far, everything that has come out of the Instapot, everyone has really enjoyed the dinner. Like, wow, that was really good, Mom. Wow, that was really good, Aunt Jenny. And I'm like, okay, but y'all been complaining about my cooking for... And I'm a really good cook. I'm going to say that, but I've been phoning in the cooking. Okay, I've been doing a lot of just... My creativity with dinners have been dwindled because there's so much other crap that is taking precedence over making a good meal. With the Instapot, I can't say enough good things about that. Like, where has it been my whole life? Because I made carnitas tacos. So I took a pork shoulder and I put it in the Instapot, and it was done in an hour. In an hour. And it was fall apart tender. And then I took it out and I put it in a frying pan to give it a little bit of crisp up, so it crisped it in its own fats. I mean, it's not a fit. I mean, it's not traditional carnitas, but it made one heck of a taco. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty dang good. And tonight, Juju is really looking forward because she's at work. Juju is my 19-year-old daughter. She said, I can't wait to come home and have cabbage roll soup. She loves cabbage rolls. She said, it's going to be so nice to come home from a long day at work and have that. I'm like, yep. See what a good housewife I am. I always give you guys dinner on the table when you come home. Oh, they take me so for granted, though. One day they're going to be in their own houses and they're going to be like, God, I really miss Mom, and I miss Mom's cooking, and I miss Mom taking care of us. And I speak that from experience because there were a lot of things with my mom I wish I could change. And she did cause me trauma in my life, but we had dinner every night on the table. And she always cooked for us. She always made sure we were taken care of, even with all of her faults. And we always knew she loved us. Alright, we're almost done. I can't believe we did a whole tutorial today. So proud of us. Look at what we did. We did it. And I really like these colors. It's fun. It's not as dramatic as the other two hats. It turned out pretty good. Slip stitch to join, cut, seal it up, boop. Give it a little stretch. It turned out really pretty, didn't it? See how you get the little variations in the color? Now, this looks like I used the same yarn for a couple rows, but I did not. See, all three of these rows look like they're the same, but you can see this is the pink one. But it's still really pretty. This is giving me like blue jean feels, right? Very pretty. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. Show me what you've made, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.